seva of reading the Mahagranth, the Holy Shivpuran. I will be just providing you a short synopsis of last week. Last week, humne chapter 11, Rudra Samhita part 3 is what we read. And very quickly, briefly, what we read in that was that Brahmaji in that chapter narrated the Shiva story of penance to Narada. And he told Narada that Parvati was being brought up in the palace of Himachala. And when she was 8 years old, Shiva, who was very, very distressed by his separation from Sati, found out about the birth of Parvati. And he was so joyous and he rejoiced and he wished to perform penance. So he took some of his ganas, including along with Nandan, to the Himalayan ridge of Ganga Vatarana. There Shivji started his penance with full concentration and self-control. Nandan and some of his ganas also started meditating with him, while some others started rendering service to Shivji while he was doing his penance. They sort of became his gatekeepers and maintained silence at all times while he was doing his penance. When Himalaya, who was the father of Parvati, he found out and got to know about Shiva's arrival, he was ecstatic. So he went to meet Shivji and he bowed in front of him and eulogized him with a lot of devotion. And he also wanted to render service to Shivji. And he requested Shivji to command him any service. So Lord Shiva at that point told Himalaya that he had come to perform penance at the Ganga Vatarana and wanted the mountain to ensure that he can perform the penance without any disturbance and obstacles. Himalaya humbly then agreed to render service to the Lord, and he returned to his abode where he enthusiastically told his wife about what had happened. He then called all his attendants and their families and he commanded them to go to the ridge of Ganga Vatarana. He made all the necessary arrangements for the penance and to be the gatekeeper and to provide protection to Shivji's his penance. So that's where we ended chapter 11. Today we are going to read chapter 12, which is the Shiv Himavat dialogue. And Sunita auntie will be reading in English and Rima auntie will be reading in Hindi. And before we start, I'm going to request Sangat, please don't come up to bow because this is being recorded and we would appreciate that aap dur se matha tek ke chale jaye because the recording starts here. So please, I would appreciate if nobody came forward. Jai Guruji, Shukrana Guruji, I'm going to request Sunita auntie to start the English reading of chapter 12. Jai Guruji, Shukrana.
Jai Guruji, Shukrana to Guru Sahib for granting me this seva. Apologies in advance for any errors. Chapter 12, Shiv Himavat Dialogue. Brahma said, Then the delighted Lord of the mountains took some fresh flowers and fruits with him and approached Shiva along with his daughter. Approaching the Lord of the three worlds, engaged in meditation and bowing to him, he mentally dedicated to him his wonderful daughter. Placing the fruits and flowers in front of him and making his daughter stand before him, the Lord of the mountains spoke to Shiva. Himachal said, O Lord, my daughter who is eager to serve you, the moon-crested Lord, I have brought here with a desire to propitiate you. Let her serve you, the benefactor, forever, along with two of her maids. O Lord, if you wish to bless me, please permit her. Brahma said, Then Shiva looked at her in the first flush of her youth. Her complexion resembled the full-blown blue lotus petals. Her face appeared as the full moon. Her auspicious dress and features were the repositories of all graceful charms. Her neck had the shape of the conch shell. Her eyes were wide and her ears shone exquisitely. On either side, her long, rounded arms resembling a lotus stalk shone beautifully. Her two breasts resembling lotus buds were stout, plump, and firm. Her waist was slender and the curly locks of her hair shone well. Her feet resembled the land lotus and were comely in appearance. She was competent to shake the minds of even the sages deeply engrossed in meditation, even at the very sight. She was a crest jewel of all the maidens in the world. On seeing her in that exquisite form, as increased the pleasure and love of even those who meditate, the great yogin Shiva closed his eyes immediately and meditated upon his real form, the great principle that is beyond the three attributes and it's imperishable. On seeing Shiva, the Lord of all, the chief of those devoted to penance, the Lord with the moon as his ornament, who can be known through spiritual insight, and who was sitting in the meditative posture, closing his eyes, Himachal saluted him again. Though he was not disheartened, he entertained some doubts. Thus he, the Lord of mountains, foremost of the eloquent, spoke to Shiva, the sole kinsman of the universe. Himachal said, O great Lord of gods, O Shiva, the merciful, O Lord, open your eyes and look at me, who have sought refuge in you. O Shiva, O great Lord, the delighter of the universe, O great God, I bow to you who destroy all adversities. O Lord of gods, the Vedas and the sacred lore do not know you entirely. Your greatness is beyond the sphere of words and minds, inexpressible by means of words and incomprehensible. Not to speak of others, even the Vedas describe you with awe, timidity, not positively, but negating what you are not. Securing your grace through devotion, many devotees become acquainted with you. Seeking refuge in you, they get correct knowledge about your real self. Please listen to my entreaty with a long heart. I am your slave. O dear Lord, in humility I shall explain the same to you. O great God Shiva, by your favor I feel most fortunate. O Lord, consider me your slave and be sympathetic towards me. Obeisance to you. O Lord, I shall be visiting you daily along with my daughter. O Lord, be pleased to command me accordingly. Brahma said, on hearing his words, the great Lord of the gods broke his meditation, opened his eyes, thought a little, and spoke. Lord Shiva said, O mountain, you shall come every day to see me, leaving your daughter in your abode. Otherwise I cannot be seen. Brahma said, on hearing the words of Shiva, in that view, the father of Shiva, the mountain, bowed his head and replied to Shiva. Himachal said, let this be kindly mentioned why this girl cannot accompany me here. Is she unworthy of your service? I do not know the reason thereof. Brahma said, particularly pointing out the worldly conduct of fake ascetics, the bull-bannered god Shiva laughingly spoke to the mountain. Shiva said, this auspicious, slender-bodied maiden of comely hips and moon-like face should not be brought near me. I forbid you again and again. A woman is a phase of illusion, as the scholars who have mastered the Vedas say particularly. A young damsel is a hindrance to ascetics. O mountain, I am an ascetic, a yogin, never affected by illusion. Of what avail is a woman thrust on me? O friend resorted to by great ascetics, you shall not say so again, since you are an adept in Vedic religion, a scholar, and one foremost amongst the wise. O mountain, by contact with a woman, worldliness springs up, non-attachment perishes, and the virtuous penance is destroyed. Hence, O mountain, no ascetic shall have any truck with women. A woman is the root of all worldly attachments. She destroys all wisdom and detachment together. Brahma said, speaking these and many other similar things to the Lord of mountains, Lord Shiva, the great yogin, stopped. On hearing these ruthless words of Shiva, free from sickness and desire, the father of Parvati became nervous, O celestial sage, and a little agitated, but he kept quiet. On hearing the words of the ascetic and finding her father, the Lord of the mountains frightened, Parvati bowed to Shiva and spoke these words clearly. That brings us to the end of chapter 12 and the English reading. Rima Auntie will now read in Hindi. Jai Guruji.
Jai Guruji. Shukrana Maharaj for blessing me with this seva. अध्याय 12 हिमवान का पार्वती को शिव की सेवा में रखने के लिए उनसे आज्ञा मांगना और शिव का कारण बताते हुए इस प्रस्ताव को अस्वीकार कर देना। ब्रह्मा जी कहते हैं, नारद, तदंतर शैलराज हिमालय उत्तम फल फूल लेकर अपनी पुत्री के साथ हर्षपूर्वक भगवान हरे के समीप गए। वहां जाकर उन्होंने ध्यान परायण त्रिलोकीनाथ शिव को प्रणाम किया और अपनी अद्भुत कन्या काली को हृदय से उनकी सेवा में अर्पित कर दिया। फल फूल आदि सारी सामग्री उनके सामने रखकर पुत्री को आगे करके शैलराज ने शंभु से कहा, भगवान, मेरी पुत्री आप भगवान चंद्रशेखर की सेवा करने के लिए उत्सुक है, अतः आपके आराधन की इच्छा से मैं इसको साथ लाया हूँ। यह अपनी 2 सखियों के साथ सदा आप शंकर की ही सेवा में रहे। नाथ, यदि आपका मुझ पर अनुग्रह है तो इस कन्या को सेवा के लिए आज्ञा दीजिए। तब भगवान शंकर ने उस परम मनोहर काम रूपिणी कन्या को देखकर आंखें मूंद ली और अपने त्रिगुणातीत अविनाशी परम तत्वमय उत्तम रूप का ध्यान आरंभ किया। उस समय सर्वेश्वर एवं सर्वव्यापी जटाजूटधारी वेदांत वेद्य चंद्र कला विभूषण शंभु उत्तम आसन पर बैठकर नेत्र बंद किए तप ध्यान में ही लग गए। यह देख हिमाचल ने मस्तक झुकाकर पुनः उनके चरणों में प्रणाम किया। यद्यपि उनके हृदय में दीनता नहीं थी, तो भी वे उस समय इस संशय में पड़ गए कि ना जाने भगवान मेरी प्रार्थना स्वीकार करेंगे या नहीं। वक्ताओं में श्रेष्ठ गिरिराज हिमवान ने जगत के एकमात्र बंधु भगवान शिव से इस प्रकार कहा। हिमालय बोले, देवदेव महादेव करुणाकर शंकर विभो, मैं आपकी शरण में आया हूँ। आंखें खोलकर मेरी ओर देखिए। शिव सर्व महेशान जगत को आनंद प्रदान करने वाले प्रभु महादेव, आप संपूर्ण आपत्तियों का निवारण करने वाले हैं। मैं आपको प्रणाम करता हूँ। स्वामी प्रभु, मैं अपनी इस पुत्री के साथ प्रतिदिन आपका दर्शन करने के लिए आऊंगा, इसके लिए आदेश दीजिए। उनकी यह बात सुनकर महादेव महेश्वर ने आंखें खोलकर ध्यान छोड़ दिया और कुछ सोच विचार कर कहा। महेश्वर बोले, गिरिराज, तुम अपनी इस कुमारी कन्या को घर में रखकर ही नित्य मेरे दर्शन को आ सकते हो, अन्यथा मेरा दर्शन नहीं हो सकता। महेश्वर की ऐसी बात सुनकर शिवा के पिता हिमवान मस्तक झुकाकर उन भगवान शिव से बोले, प्रभु, यह तो बताइए किस कारण से मैं इस कन्या के साथ आपके दर्शन के लिए नहीं आ सकता? क्या यह आपकी सेवा के योग्य नहीं है? फिर इसे नहीं लाने का क्या कारण है? यह मेरी समझ में नहीं आता। यह सुनकर भगवान वृषभध्वज शंभु हंसने लगे और विशेषतः दुष्ट योगियों को लोकचार का प्रदर्शन करते हुए वे हिमालय से बोले, शैलराज, यह कुमारी सुंदर कटि प्रदेश से सुशोभित तनवंगी चंद्रमुखी और शुभ लक्षणों से संपन्न है, इसलिए इसे मेरे समीप तुम्हें नहीं लाना चाहिए। इसके लिए मैं तुम्हें बारंबार रोकता हूँ। वेद के पारंगत विद्वानों ने नारी को माया रूपिणी कहा है। विशेषतः युवती स्त्री तो तपस्वी जनों के तप में विघ्न डालने वाली ही होती है। गिरि श्रेष्ठ, मैं तपस्वी योगी और सदा माया से निर्लिप्त रहने वाला हूँ। मुझे युवती स्त्री से क्या प्रयोजन है? तपस्वियों के श्रेष्ठ आश्रय हिमालय, इसलिए फिर तुम्हें ऐसी बात नहीं कहनी चाहिए, क्योंकि तुम वेदोक्त धर्म में प्रवीण, ज्ञानियों में श्रेष्ठ और विद्वान हो। अचल राज, स्त्री के संग से मन में शीघ्र ही विषय वासना उत्पन्न हो जाती है, उससे वैराग्य नष्ट होता है और वैराग्य न होने से पुरुष उत्तम तपस्या से भ्रष्ट हो जाता है। इसलिए शैल, तपस्वी को स्त्रियों का संग नहीं करना चाहिए, क्योंकि स्त्री महाविषय वासना की जड़ एवं ज्ञान वैराग्य का विनाश करने वाली होती है। ब्रह्मा जी कहते हैं, नारद, इस तरह की बहुत सी बातें कहकर महायोगी शिरोमणि भगवान महेश्वर चुप हो गए। देवर्षि शंभु का यह निरामय निस्वरूप निष्प्रह और निष्ठुर वचन सुनकर काली के पिता हिमवान चकित कुछ व्याकुल और चुप हो गए। तपस्वी शिव की कही हुई बात सुनकर और गिरिराज हिमवान को चकित हुआ जानकर भवानी पार्वती उस समय भगवान शिव को प्रणाम करके विशद वचन बोली। जय गुरुजी। अध्याय 12 समाप्त।